Hi there, it's Lisa Carr with Insight to Potential and day 2 of the Parent Leader Challenge. And welcome back for this information session, which is on the parent-teacher interview. If you live in the province of Ontario, you will probably be experiencing very soon the parent-teacher interview. So this comes at a good time for all of you. If not, this will be helpful just the same to all of you parents out there who have to go through the parent-teacher interview. Now, I know that some of you may or may not like the parent-teacher interview, but I want to give you some information and some pretty helpful tips that will help you navigate the parent-teacher interviews with ease and be able to derive the best possible information as to who your child actually is as a student, as a learner. And so typically what happens is parent-teacher interviews come as a result of having received your child's report card. And it's really important that you attend all of the parent-teacher interviews, even when it's not necessary, because really what you're communicating to your child is that you are interested, you want to have a relationship with the school, you want to have a relationship with your child's classroom teacher, and that you care about their academics, even when they're achieving and they're doing just fine at school. Typically, the parent-teacher interview lasts approximately 10 minutes. You should give yourself some leeway when scheduling those parent-teacher interviews because from time to time it is known that sometimes parent-teacher interviews can take a little bit longer depending on what's happening with that particular family at the time, and sometimes the teacher may be running a little bit late. So you want to have a little extra time and carry a little bit of extra patience with you in the event that your appointment time is slightly a little bit off of its scheduled time. Depending on how the parent-teacher interviews are set up, your child may or may not be invited to the parent-teacher interview. If it is a student-led conference, then obviously your child will need to be there because they are responsible for bringing you through their portfolio of work and explaining what they've done really, really well and some things that they might want to improve on in the next term. If you have a feeling that during the course of the interview you have some things that you want to discuss that you might not necessarily want to say in front of your child, it's probably not a good idea to bring your child to the interview. And I certainly wouldn't want you to use the interview as a forum to blame or shame your child for not having achieved appropriately on your child's report card. So in those kinds of circumstances, you are going to want to go alone so that you can have a very direct and frank conversation with your child's classroom teacher so that you know how to guide your child once you get home. So some strategies that you want to go into the parent-teacher interview with. Certainly you want to be prepared. And how do you prepare? Well, first of all, you need to really read the report card. You need to read everything, even the comments, how boring they might seem to you, however much edu-babble they use and all the jargon that they use from education. You should really be reading your child's report card so you know what kind of curriculum expectations are being required of them and just how well they've achieved within the context of those particular curriculum expectations. So reading it carefully and making some notes around some of the questions that you may have. When you go into the parent-teacher interview, you really want to talk about what are my child's strengths, what are my child's weaknesses, and what can we do to make things better regardless of, if it's social, emotional, or academic. What can we do to make things better, or what are my next steps when I move into that next term? And you want to kind of collaborate with the classroom teacher and come up with a plan so that you can reinforce that plan when you get home with your child. You can also speak to homework and expectations. That's also very important too, because if, for example, your child is in grade 3, really they probably shouldn't be spending any more than maybe 30 minutes at the most on homework. Most of that time should be spent doing some independent reading and also some mathematics. But if it's taking a really, really long time and you're looking at an hour and a half, 2 hours to get through nightly homework, then there's a problem. And so that's certainly something that you're going to want to bring up at parent-teacher interview, because it could be an indicator that either there's too much work coming home. It could be an indicator that your child is not paying attention in classroom and there's some behavioral issues. It could also mean that your child's having some learning issues. And certainly those are all very valid reasons to discuss homework and kind of come to a resolution as to how it's going to be handled moving forward, so that your child can achieve at their very best. In terms of the actual interview, you always want to go in, again, in a place where you are positive, friendly, and open to whatever it is that you're going to hear. It doesn't mean that you have to agree with everything that's being said to you. It's just a matter of being present, listening to what the teacher is experiencing or showing coming up with your child within the context of the classroom, and just being prepared to be non-judgmental about the information that you are about to receive. It doesn't mean that you can't be direct. It doesn't mean that you can't respectfully challenge the position or ask more questions. It just means that you're not going in a combative stance, that you're not going in to argue, or you're not going in to be in a place of denial, that you're just really ready and open to receive the information that the teacher is sharing with you. And then if you have a concern, you really want to go in without necessarily saying, it's your fault, it's my child's fault, it's this person's fault, it's that person's fault. You don't want to play the blame game. It's really not going to get you anywhere, and it's not going to get you the support that you want for your child. So a better approach certainly would be a possible request. So for example, it might be that your child is coming home frustrated because when the teacher calls on him or her, they tend to get nervous and they don't get the answers out quickly enough, and the teacher just kind of dismisses your child, or at least that's the way they're perceiving it, dismisses them and then moves on. And so it might be that, yes, in fact, when my child does get nervous, it takes them a longer time to process the information. And I've noticed when I'm working with my child that I need to give them a little extra time to answer the questions. So you would want to go in and just say, look at, my little Susie is having some struggles and mentioned a concern about not having enough time to answer the questions. And so what I found is that my child, when they feel under stress or when they're kind of put on the spot and not expecting to answer a question, they get nervous, they stammer, they stumble, and they're not able to answer, even though they have the right answer, or they've studied or they've practiced, and they want to be able to share with you everything that they have. Is there any way you would consider, offering just a little bit of extra time to kind of give them an opportunity to collect themselves and be able to get out what they want to express to you? And so coming from a place of asking a request, a place of trying to find some middle ground or some understanding around an issue, and then looking at some kind of resolution or solution is going to be the best possible way to resolve a particular concern that you may have. If you are putting things in place where you are proposing solutions, you do want to have some follow-up. So at the end, you'll want to summarize with the classroom teacher, the solutions that you've come up with, and that you agree to some kind of follow-up, whether it be in a week's time or in a month's time, either through an agenda or through a quick telephone call, or maybe just another 5-minute meeting, those resolutions and how it's working out, if in fact it has resolved some of the issues or the concerns that you had or that your child was bringing forward. And another strategy that you want to go in with is, if you are having concerns, help the teacher out in terms of sharing some information, maybe perhaps that they don't necessarily know about your child, how you experienced them at home, and then offering some of the solutions that have worked for you in the past. And that can really go a long way with the classroom teacher, and also with keeping those positive lines of communication open and having that positive rapport with the classroom teacher. And so no one's really being on the defensive or necessarily having hurt feelings or going into a combative mode. The next thing is that you really want to ask for more time if you know that you're going into a parent-teacher interview and you know that it's going to be longer than the 10 or the 15 minutes. It's really not fair to other parents if you know that the problem you're going in with is a significant issue and is going to take longer than that. Do your best to kind of judge based on the list of questions and your preparation whether or not 10 minutes is going to suffice. And if not, contact the school right away and say, you know what, it would probably be better not to have it at this particular time on the night of parent-teacher interview. I might need a little bit longer. Can I meet with you on another day and another time that's mutually suitable for both of us? And then the other thing that you can do is also take the time and the opportunity to communicate with your child's teacher frequently so that concerns don't necessarily blow up into big problems by the time they get to the parent-teacher interview. So having short, quick notes, perhaps in your child's agenda, sending in a quick note, taking time to have a quick phone call with the classroom teacher, or maybe having a monthly meeting depending on the level of concern that you have for your child is really important. And so making sure that all of those things are happening or are already established prior to those parent-teacher interviews will help the explosion factor, will help alleviate potential explosion factor at parent-teacher interview, and it will certainly help with keeping and maintaining those positive relationships with the school and with the teacher. So just to summarize again, it's about being prepared. It's about talking about your child's strengths, weaknesses, and next steps. It's about asking questions about your child's curriculum and where you can help as a parent at home. It's about finding common ground around some of the concerns that you have and soliciting help from the classroom teacher and offering suggestions and solutions that you know have worked for you. Taking the time to make a phone call and say that you need more time than 10 minutes will certainly take the stress off of a 10-minute parent-teacher interview. And then, of course, following up with the classroom teacher when you come to those resolutions or solutions. That's what's going to keep your relationship with your child's teacher and with the school one that's open, one that's positive, and one that's beneficial for your child so that they can get the support and help that they need, both from you and the classroom teacher and the school. So again, it's being positive, being interested, and being involved. Showing involvement, showing that you care, showing that you're interested in your child's education, and in sharing with your classroom teacher about your child, who is your most valuable and precious commodity. And I hate to use the word commodity. That doesn't sound very good, but they are the most important, precious being in your entire life. So just taking that opportunity to share that with the classroom teacher just kind of gives them that little bit of an edge into all of the wonderful things you know and love about your child. And then they can certainly use that in terms of building and establishing that critical rapport with your child in the classroom. And so that brings us to the end of day 2 challenge for us. Again, we've got some prizes coming to you upon completion of some dialogue and some questions over Facebook. Still not too late to join. If you have family, if you have friends, if you have somebody that you want to join in, hop in on our calls, please don't be afraid to ask them to join the Facebook group, the Parent Leader Tribe. We would love to have them on board, and certainly they can pick up where we are from where we're at and join in on day 3, 4, and 5. Thanks so much for joining in. Love chatting with you. Day 1 was fantastic. Looking forward to day 3. Can't wait to see you again. Take care, and we'll see you tomorrow.